and welcome to Welcome Home Radio. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy, whether it's investing, leasing, renting, home insurance, or myths and misconceptions. Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, to help you make the right home buying decision for you and your family, here are your hosts.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio, where real estate, lending, and learning come together. This is your mortgage market update for June 9th. The MBA released their mortgage application data this morning, and overall volume decreased 3%. Purchases were down 24% year over year, and refis are down 27% year over year. The Senate passed another spending bill yesterday worth $250 billion for the tech and manufacturing industries. This is supposed to counter China's tech ambitions and include scientific research, subsidies for chip makers, and robotics. On the inflation front, Sherwin-Williams is implementing a 7% price increase across the board August 1st. Chipotle raised their menu prices by 4% just last week. One of the main reasons for higher prices is the shortage of qualified labor. Yesterday, the JOLTS report, which tracks their monthly job openings, reported a record 9.3 million jobs for the month of April, an increase of over 1 million. But only 7% of those new jobs have been filled. The typical home sale price hit another high in May 2021, reaching $380,000, an increase of 15.2% over last year. We do not see relief on the horizon for home buyers as inventory continues to shrink and home prices are forecasted to reach new heights. So what is a new home buyer to do? The housing market is a challenge for buyers, whether it's the first time or not. Today, we'll be discussing this market and what can be done to be able to buy your first or your second or even your next home. Joining us today on Welcome Home Radio, a longtime fan, David Tanner with Fathom Realty. David, great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
And of course, Tom and Alan Pace are here to join us today. Guys, great to see y'all.
Hey, good seeing you.
It's good to be seen.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, I'm sure our head monkey butt's going to rotate our screens around, but guys, what do y'all think about this prices increase right now? It's kind of crazy in the market seeing the continued prices increasing, and we don't see a stop. What are y'all thinking on this?
It's unbelievable. I mean, you've got buyers out there and buyers agents. They don't know which way to turn. You know, they're doing everything they can to come up with the best offer when they do submit. We recently went through this process, and I had agents calling me, and they're like, "What do your sellers want? You know, what do they want? What do they need to accept an offer?" You know, and short of telling them, you know, they want this amount, you know, you give them what you can, and you just kind of go from there. But it's a roll of the dice, you know.
Well, first off, I want to understand, Tom or Alan, can you give me any insight? Are home prices going to continue to rise the rest of this year? Or are we going to see a curve down, or is it a bust?
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I think in David's situation, when they're calling him, he should just say, well, they want $1 million.
And the next lottery ticket. And
that's what I tell. That's what I tell them when they call the house or send me we get those letters and wanting to buy your house. You know, I tell them for $1 million, it's yours.
$1 million, it's yours. I'll go find someplace else to live. No problem.
I'll answer it straight out. I think prices will continue to increase the rest of this year.
Wow.
Could be wrong, but there's a lot of buyers out there, and I've been reading some interesting stuff. It's a good segue, and maybe we can do a show on it. The market shift and what these big entrepreneurs have planned for us in the suburbs, and building small rentals. They're actually going to compete with investors, and They're talking about, multi-family type places, and they're talking about little subdivisions of rent only type things. Just read that yesterday. Don't know where it's going to go, how many years away, but the American dream has kind of quietly slipped away this year a little bit. People have done everything right to be qualified, save their money.
Yeah.
And for every listing that a agent has, you have 10 or 12 really bummed out potential buyers. And after a while, that gets pretty darn old. You have a life you got to go on with, and school's coming up again. And so I think we're for interesting times. I've not seen it like this before. Blair, I think you and I talked briefly on the phone yesterday a little bit about it. I'm a little concerned, but this is a great country. We have ways of things change fairly quick. We'll see what interest rates do. We'll see what Yellen does. We'll see how all that affects us. But for now, I don't see any reason the housing prices are going to go down.
Well, and there was a segment on the local news this morning with a realtor, and basically she said the same thing. What you're seeing today, you're seeing buyers that are actually letting people. They're not even, they're giving them a free lease back. You need 30 days, you need 60 days, you've got it. So it's giving sellers a little bit more time to go find something else if they haven't already. But the challenge is, finding that next piece of property, or that next property, basically. So, it's very. I had another agent reach out to me last night who was has a client that's looking for something in the same area that I just went under contract with, and she said her client is just very frustrated, but she's got a very a limited budget, and she can't go beyond that, and that's what's challenging for a lot of people.
Tom, do you really see this market continuing this way the rest of this year?
Well, yeah, maybe not.
Oh, come on, put a stake in the ground. Decide.
Well, there are some things out there that do say that at a certain point, people stop. And I know that pricing, as far as if we saw an increase in interest rates as well, that would kind of put some dampers on what's happening. Now, of course, what was in the Dallas Morning News on their business section this morning and on the front page of the paper was that, we are at our highest level ever in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with an average sales price over $325,000. And so, this is one of those things that you can't anticipate. You just live through it. And when it comes to a crash and burn, it will crash and burn. And I think my sister's house is a good example over on the M Streets. She listed it within reason of what the realtor said she should list it for, and she got an offer. And so, and then I started looking around, and I did some little assistance as far as what my real estate skills would show. And I said, sis, your advice from your realtor was a little bit out of line with what you should be asking for the house. So I think people are still somewhat cognizant of maybe going off a total cliff is not the wisest choice, because those people that bought back in 2005 and 6, they weren't able to recover their investments until 2016 to break even. Mm-hmm. So, that was nearly a decade where they had overpaid for housing in these certain areas that didn't realize that, Texas has this high tax rate that you've got to pay every year. And that's a disadvantage when I'm coming from some other part of the country, where in Nevada, a $400,000 house, you pay about $4,000 a year in taxes. And in Texas, you pay $12,000. So,
yeah, but you don't pay state tax, and there you do.
Well, and I totally understand that. Of course, I love Don Hoffines coming up today and saying he's going to eliminate all the please do not vote for that guy. I've met him 2 or 3 times. He is so dense. How are
you going to pay for school districts and streets and everything else? It doesn't make sense.
It sounds like personal income tax, if you ask me. So
I saw just before we started the show, about 45 minutes ago, I was reading an article on one of our internal blogs, and some people are starting to see kind of a slowdown and it may be temporary, I don't know, but a slowdown in the luxury market, kind of the 800,000 range, 600, 700, 800,000 range. So we, at some point we're going to reach the point of diminishing returns, but we don't know when that's going to be.
Well, and the sweet spot is still the 300. I mean, to be able to say a first-time home buyer is looking at a $300,000 house, I'm like, I never thought I'd say that in my lifetime. And it's just, wow, that's an incredible price point to start at.
Yep.
Well, I had my recent one. We had over 40 showings in a weekend, over a weekend.
Yeah.
Well, before we go off on that, I want to bring up some data points and give me your feedback, please. One, inflation is happening, and inflation is going to go up at the end of this month even more. We know it's coming. So prices, jobs, all of this thing, the job market. I mean, I can't believe that we've hit the new high of jobs availability, but only closing or filling 7% of them is unbelievable. And I think that's going to change as soon as Texas and other locations start taking away this bonus cash. But what about the forbearance ending in August, September, or October? I mean, we know people want to move before school starts, get families going. But are we going to see more availability, more inventory coming down the pike in the later part of this year because of 78% of the people never come out of forbearance and foreclosures will be taking stronger place?
The logical answer is yes, but we're in an era of financial forgiveness right now, and I don't know what to tell you. Things can happen, things can change, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer when the prices will quit going up either. If we all knew that, we'd be gazillion billionaires, 30 years ago. I bought my home in 2006. I'm doing fine. Some people overpay, some people underpay. If you're in it long enough, you're going to do fine in real estate. But inventory is an issue. There are just not enough houses to buy. And I don't know when that's going to end.
So is Alan a gazillion billionaire? I love that number. Yeah. That is a great number.
I don't know how many zeros that is, but
it's a gazillion billion.
Is it 5 commas?
Yeah.
Is it 6 commas? So David, we wanted to bring you on because you recently you did listing. You had 44 showings. How many offers did you receive, and how did you go through this? Because I'm going to be perfectly direct in the sense of I have one relationship where I was point blank told, oh, if you can't approve them conventionally, then we're going to have to change or do something. We got to focus on conventional, not FHA. And so I'm trying to figure out how many offers, how many buyers are really out there shopping. What's the ratio? And you're the best data point I can think of. You just had how many offers, and how did you sift them?
We had 11 offers. Well, actually 12. One pulled out. And surprisingly, only 2 were cash offers. The rest of them were, most of them were conventional. We had 1 FHA and 1 came with a contingency. That they had to sell their other house. But what we're seeing, it's challenging. You present them to your sellers, and we look them over. We look at number one, we look at the offer price. Number one.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Were any of the offers below asking?
No.
How many of them were right at asking?
1.
Of the 12? 1. So 11 of the 12 were over asking.
Yes. And it was a pretty big range too. And so where was I going with that? So most of them were conventional, and we had 1 FHA. And of course there were several waivers, appraisal waivers. We had a couple of full waivers and several partial waivers.
For our listening audience, please let's talk through that situation, because that is dramatically different on your side of the house, your contract negotiation, than it is on the lender side. And I'm glad Tom's here to help us all clarify What does that mean when you're saying you're offering an appraisal waiver?
Now, are you asking me?
I'm asking David first.
Yeah.
Well, so basically, there's three different choices on the appraisal addendum, and of all the ones we received, they were either full waivers or partial. So basically, the full waiver, I mean, you still have that option on the third party financing addendum, but the waiver just basically gives them an additional out. If it doesn't meet the lender's standards. The partial, they actually have to put an amount in there. So let's say they put in there 400,000. If it appraises for that or above, they basically don't have an out. They've got to go forth. If it comes below that, it could give them some negotiation power potentially. But a lot of them are willing to. They know that they're going to come up with the difference. In cash if the appraisal is off.
And that's what I want to make sure people understand is that in the appraisal waiver, when it's made in an offer from the realtor / buyer, it is not an appraisal waiver on the lender side like what's called a PIW, a property inspection waiver, that we don't do an appraisal for. And Tom, I want to make sure, double check me on this, and correct me where I'm wrong. We're going to do an appraisal no matter what, unless the conventional underwriting, DU, comes in as a PIW. Then we can offer that, and the buyer has to agree to it. But otherwise, we're doing an appraisal no matter what. The perception, some people say, well, when we negotiate an appraisal waiver, we don't have to do an appraisal. No, we still do an appraisal to get a valuation from the lender's point. That's it. It's going to happen. Don't assume that that's happening. It's just that you are taking away your opportunity of making an out. You're going to pay the difference, whatever it comes in at.
Right. That's exactly
Tom,
right.
am I correct there? Is there anything you need to add to that?
No, and just to give the listening audience, just to recap, the lender is going to take the lesser of. So they're basing their loan off that appraised price. If it's substantially less than the sales price that's been negotiated, they're still making their loan to value and all their decisions on underwriting on that appraisal.
And the thing is, you're under contract, whatever the two parties agreed upon, that's the agreed upon price. But like Tom said, if that appraisal comes in way low, then the buyer's got some decisions to make. If they can back out, or are they locked in, or are they gonna have to throw some additional cash? And a lot of what's happening today is that they do have the cash, so they're really not concerned about the appraisal in some cases. They're gonna pay the difference no matter what.
And so this experience for buyers especially first time buyers that are coming out there, their first experience, Alan, David, give us a number of how many times a buyer has to make an offer just to even possibly get an acceptance in your experience right now. Are they making 10, 20, 30, 5, 4? What is the average here for first-time home buyers going into the market and trying to get a home?
I think it's a couple of things here. One is, it's at least 5 or 6 generally. Mm-hmm. I got away with one recently. That was great. But the other thing is, how many times will a buyer client stick around to make 10 offers? That's the hard part right now. And, we're all human. We get frustrated, and you do your best as a realtor or business partner, so to speak, to rationally talk people through it. You're not supposed to, talk them out of stuff or into stuff, but they have really good questions because they're real people. And so that's what's going on right now. You could still go out and show your client a house and you made the right offer and you get the house. Just happened a couple weeks ago for me. So, that happens, but it don't happen very often right now. You've got to show homes several times, and you have to, the bottom line here, I think too, is, the people that have the money are getting the homes. And that sounds silly because people that have money get everything what they want. But
Yeah.
In general, some people can afford to pay 30,000 over list, and others are at the max just trying to buy it at list. So that when you're a listing agent, that's part of your diligence. Talking to lenders on the other side and make sure that complete pre-approval is what it is, and they have the cash to take care of this if that's the contract we're going into. And just a lot going on right now. But I've been on the other side of it too, when buyers were kings, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, what do you need? Oh yeah, we'll redo the grass, or we'll plant a tree, or we'll that kind of stuff. So the one thing I do agree with, I think everybody will, is this won't continue forever. There will be change. It will come. Things will slow down, and we will moderate. But I just don't see it right away.
Well, and it's a perfect storm. I replied to somebody the other day. We were having a conversation, and you factor in COVID and the historically low mortgage rates. There's a lot of things that the cost of goods. To buy. I talked to a builder recently. I've got another one under contract for a new build, and when they finish this phase and start the next phase, they're going up at least $30,000 per house because of the labor shortage, the cost of goods to build those homes. So you've got so many things in play right now, and it's just the perfect storm. It's across the country, but especially in Texas, because there's so many people relocating here because we're a business friendly state, and we don't have a state income tax, and there's other things that are driving that migration here. And I've actually had buyer clients that have taken a break. They're just sitting on the sidelines because they're frustrated. I've got a family member doing the same thing. She couldn't find anything in her price range, and she just doesn't, want to pay $50,000 above asking price for something. And
it was interesting. A phone call I got just yesterday. I've got a couple of new builds going, and one was back in December, and it's getting there. 3 price increases, and they're literally they could move in and sell if they wanted to.
Alan, if I could stop you there. Tom, I want to get some insight to the legalities of home builders putting in their contracts that they have the right to increase prices during build time due to either labor and or material cost. Is that something that is standard, non-standard? Can that be stopped?
I want to be clear before their new subdivision.
I'm sorry?
Be clear again.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. My client did not get a price increase from the builder. The homes since then that are being bought have gone up 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay? So my client, quote, could move in, close, and sell.
Right.
And probably make money, which is silly.
And not all builders will do that right in the middle of a transaction, but some are doing that. It goes back to your question, Blair. What's the legalities of them doing that?
Well, there's 2 things here. One is I've heard about, I've seen copies or photos of. Did you ever hear about this in a contract? Which is we have the right to increase our prices during the build time. And secondly, they're cutting the commissions of the realtors bringing clients to them from 3% down to 1.5%. And I'm just trying to get an idea, Tom, who's holding these builders accountable, or are they just taking advantage at this time?
Well, they're going to argue they're not taking advantage of anything. That's the flip side of the coin. There is not a law in Texas that holds builders or contractors to any standard of accountability. They tried to do that about 15 years ago, and they found out that they weren't going to willing to create the agency that would be necessary to do that. So in other words, builders just get a good attorney, and the attorney writes up what they wishes are as far as the changes that they would allow. And I will say that in these cases where they are writing that into a contract where they can pass on increases, which they don't have to substantiate, they just have to show that, that they've had this increase as far as cost, and then they can just state what those cost increases are to the bottom line. There's again, all the contracts that are written for builders are written by builders for builders. They never use the TREC contract. And that's
Some
just I'd like to know who does still.
I know of one right now
really?
that's still, yeah, they use the TREC.
Really?
Yeah, they use the TREC incomplete construction contract.
Wow.
They're a builder that's been around a very long time, and they're very comfortable with it. And
well, that'd be a reputable builder, I would say.
Yeah,
then.
it is. It is. Yep. Well, I was surprised too, because I had never seen that. But they do.
I would think, yeah, that would really surprise me, because,
Yeah.
you know, anytime we've been, you know, anytime you look at new housing, the builders have their specific contracts that are tailored to what they want to get across.
Yeah, right.
And to answer the question, Blair, there is no standard of accountability. So it's what their attorneys write. And this is a buyer beware state. It's always been a buyer beware state. But more so with new construction than anything else.
Is that laissez-faire, as they say in French?
That's right.
It could be.
Let the buyer beware.
Well, just to show you, just to give you a visual, kind of I'll put it all in perspective. I talked to another broker the other day at another brokerage, and he had a client that was moving from California to Texas. So he sold his home there, got a good price for it, put an offer on a home here in the McKinney area for $100,000 above asking price. Okay, and he still lost.
Or maybe he won.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe in the end he won, but
He did win.
that's
Back to
how
the building
willing
thing,
some people are.
The call I got yesterday was from a builder I have a contract going with right now, and they explained their new commission structure. Okay, now first thing out of my mouth, you're not changing my commission on the one we have under contract, right? He goes, no, but we're eliminating bonus, and we're eliminating, some builders have the 1, 2, 3. If you sell 2 homes, you get more commission. You sell 3 of them, they're eliminating those. And then starting at a certain date, this builder will no longer offer any bonuses. I'm okay, because I was in early enough, and it's a good builder. Now, what does that mean for me? That means when this is all over, I will love on that builder. That builder, they informed me, they gave me, you know, everything up front, and I'm now made aware of how to move forward doing this during this time. So I like that kind of a thing. They didn't cut the commission. You know, it's the second home I've sold for these folks in the last year, so I'm eligible for a bonus, and I will keep it. So, but going forward, if I was to sell another one next week, after July, let's see, I think he said July 1st, then there's no more. I couldn't get the third house in the year. So there's some things going on. Then again, you look at, you know, 1.41 billion was what Toll Brothers' profit was in 2020, down 9% from 2019. I'm sure it's going to be down in 2021, but it's still the B word. So the thing I did before I was a realtor was I sold to builders and distributors, windows and doors. I can't tell you how many builders I took out on the town. I can't tell you how they talk about things with a few beers in them. You know, it's interesting. Builders make pretty good money, okay? And they adjust. I was a vendor. I was an upper management guy. They put the squeeze on you. If you want our business, this is what you're going to do. So their vendors eat up a lot of this price increase stuff. Can't just say I'm a builder and we buy wood and we're going out of business. That don't work. So you have to educate your clients. You have to educate everybody around you about this process right now. It is so different than it was just 2 years ago. And I don't know where it's going to be next year, but
or even I would say 2 years. I'd say 1 year ago. It's dramatically different.
Well, and believe it or not, these builders, when back during the recession, if you recall, there were so many foreclosures, there were so many houses available back then, and builders basically put a hiatus to building. I mean, they didn't completely stop, but they reduced it drastically. So they've yet to catch up to that. Plus, you have all the migration, to this state in particular, in Florida, and then you've got COVID, which is just kind of everybody's just kind of starting to rethink where they live, how they live, working from home and that sort of thing. So, yeah, we don't know where this is going to be, but there will come a time when builders love realtors again.
Oh, I totally believe that, and I believe the market is going to change for us. It's just the question of when. And the insight that I have, and you guys have a longer history here, the biggest thing, we're in our prime buying time, prime selling buying time. I think by the end of the summertime, I think we're going to see a turn. I don't know how far. I don't know where. I just think that's still going to be a seasonal push or a change in the market. But I see inflation causing a lot of issues coming around the corner very quickly for us if you're not aware of it. And I think rates are going to be affected. I can't, if we're seeing a downturn in applications and actually downturn of actual purchases and refis going through, then you're going to see the Fed stop buying and you're going to see a change. Would you agree, Tom, or am I outside the ball field?
I think you're accurate. And see, the Fed is the problem they've created for themselves is they have no room to spark the economy any further. I mean, when you have a 0% interest rate and you haven't tried to edge it up a little bit, and Jerome Powell's just I don't want to see a higher interest rate. And I listened to, the Dallas Fed chair talking about the other day about, we're not going to react until we see inflation. Well, have you been to the store lately? I mean, geez, I get here. Yeah, I mean, that was my first reaction last year with COVID when, I went to a grocery store from time to time, very cautiously and everything. Immediately you realize the supply chain is broken, and it's broken for
he couldn't find toilet paper anymore.
Multiple reasons. Yeah, well, no, I had already stored a ton of it. So
you're the problem.
I was selling it on eBay for $5 a roll. So I made some good money on toilet paper. But the reality is that inflation is sneaky because we don't count in certain things that we used to count in. We don't count in housing. We don't count in fuel and electric and any of the things that we have to pay to get around. And so, when you're just doing that core cost of inflation, it's kind of deceptive in certain ways that your basket of goods that they talk about and how much it's increased when they say it's about 1% or 1.5%. Last month it was 3.5%, and that's a year over year. That's
12 months average. And 12 months ago we were at a negative actual per month. This month is going to go up. That's why I say next week is going to be a huge inflation number. It's going to be over 4, Tom.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree.
And Janet Yellen said the other day, interest rates may need to rise to ensure that the economy doesn't overheat. That was reported yesterday on the business news wires, CNBC, Fox, and all of them. So they know they're trying to keep an eye on it, I think. But even if they do raise interest rates, I just don't see it changing for, at the end of summer. I just don't think that'll happen. I don't know when it will. I mean, generally November and December are horrible months to do real estate, but boy, this last November, December, we're blowing and going. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know if that's going to continue or not.
Well, we don't know. But again, I think the sooner impact we're going to see is the inflation number and how that impacts our ability to buy, our buying power. It's going to change dramatically some of the things that we do in life. I want to say hi out to Randy. Yeah, Tom is kind of handsome. I will admit that, but appreciate you listening, Randy. And we do challenge people to ask your questions right here live. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. And follow us on KVGI Media on YouTube and or on Facebook. But we see the market it's going to be impacted. We don't know which way it's going because, again, our administration it's spendthrifts. They are spending money like it's printed, and inflation is going to be dramatically.
Are they printing money like they're spending it?
Well, the bottom line is there's no accountability in what they're trying to do. Their response to everything is throw money at it instead of common sense, in my opinion.
Well, and it sounds like there's more coming. If Congress doesn't act, it sounds like the president's going to go ahead and push it through on his own this next round of spending, from what I heard.
It's scary, and inflation is definitely going to be a major issue across the board, not even just in the real estate industry, but just buying goods, trucking goods, moving and sustaining stores and grocery stores, supply chains. I mean, Tom's already said, and I agree with him, it's broken, but we're actually self-destructing. Our government is causing us to self-destruct. Gas prices have gone up. We're not going to see a change in that.
Well, try to buy a new car. There's no cars in the lots.
Yeah, that's a good point, Alan.
Used cars are just like houses right now. I'm telling you, if you got a car to sell right now, sell it. They are just paying big bucks for them. You can't, you got to get on a waiting list for a new vehicle.
Well, it's the computer chip shortage is a big part of that too, especially for the new vehicles.
And other things involved with building cars. It's an issue. That's an issue right now.
I saw where the country as a whole, we're short at least 60,000 semi-truck drivers.
Okay, I'm going to become the mobile truck driving lender now.
Thank goodness we've got a fallback place.
So you're right. It affects the supply chain. There's a drought in California, which is going to affect the produce prices.
That's going to be a nasty.
I just had a nasty thought about that.
How do we get so negative? I love waking up.
Yeah, right.
What's going on here?
I'm drinking my coffee. I feel good.
I started the day. I had some Pink Floyd going.
But yeah.
The good news is
you gotta embrace life.
The sun is going to shine again. We know that, right? Hopefully, the coffee will still be available.
Look at you guys showing up. Uh-oh.
Bet your bottom dollar that
Head Monkey Bob totally lost the control of this whole show now. It's gone.
And audience, I want you to understand that Tom is the smartest one on this bunch.
That should worry everybody.
Oh boy, quick.
Well, guys, we've crossed the housing market. We see it's a challenge. I do have one final thing to ask our realtors. Is there a chance of anybody in the FHA approval able to buy a home right now?
Absolutely, there's a chance. There's a chance. I mean, I haven't done one recently, but there is a chance, and I always encourage my FHA and VA buyers. We do sometimes have to work a little harder, be more creative on our offers, and right place, right time has a lot to do with it. And some people see value in repair, not major repair, but painting, carpets, things like that. The folks that are buying the homes right now, a lot of them are paying extra money for the house because they like that house. It's ready to roll, ready to move in. Like David's listing. All you had to do is move in there. You were good to go. So, but there's ways to get through this. And, I'm working with some folks right now, and we're trying. We're going to look at houses that need a little work. The other thing that realtors that are inexperienced can learn to do is send your clients houses that have been on the market for 50 days or more.
Yeah.
Get them the days on market homes. Every home is possibly needs some work. It just depends. But days on market, and there are homes with days on markets, but you got to make sure no foundation issues, or if there are, they're repaired with lifetime warranty. But that's another way. I expose all of my buyers to that. and not just FHA and VA buyers, by the way, conventional as well.
Well,
Well,
let's go down. Let's talk about something on that you brought up there. And Tom, help me out here. Homes that need repair, homes that have some need. What is the difference between conventional, FHA, and then of course our veteran brothers and sisters, VA, in having a home that has repair? What are we looking at? What is the guideline stating? Because conventional works for mostly everything's negotiable. FHA has some standards, and definitely VA, it has to be home ready. Would you please give us or share our listening audience what those things are with each lending opportunity?
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, conventional is and does tend to be more generous. I will tell you, conventional types of appraisals with regards to conventional financing, the appraiser does look for major problems. So it's not like they just close their eyes like they did in the 2003 or 4 or 5 time frame. I mean, I did conventional loans, Fannie and Freddie loans. It was like had big holes in the door going out so you could see outside. And you're like, okay, well, that's fine if they're okay. They just took the picture going away from the door, not towards the door. But today the USPAP has cracked down on that and said it needs to be home ready. It needs to be livable. Now, the standards with FHA and VA do tend to be a little bit higher as far as requirements with cracks in glass and door locks and
Wood rot.
Wood rot. Oh, that's always been one of their big deals along the outside exterior. So those are types of things that will be more attention paid to. And in a seller's market, that's again why realtors automatically turn and say, well, let's just throw out the FHA offers. And I love Alan's again. He's got that positive. So I'm going to do the positive thing. FHA is no harder to get than a conventional or a VA loan if you're qualified. As a matter of fact, FHA's guidance is easier to qualify for. So anybody buying within that circumstance, the only thing I think that is if the house is in good shape, it doesn't matter. I know you started this question with, well, what about the houses that need work? It's all kind of in the eye of the beholder. What does work mean? If it's old and hasn't been updated, that's not work. It just means it's not updated. It can be clean, it can be kept, and they've been, watching the mold issues on rafters, and they paint the house when they need to. And I remember my dad during the summer, he would always get out there with bleach every summer and get under those eaves and, wipe down the eaves so that black stuff would go away. And I'm like, that's something that just happens here in Texas. We get a lot of hot, steamy springs like we're having right now. Well, now we're about to hit that dry spot, and all that steam has come up and collects in places. So,
and it's never been more important to be, work with an experienced realtor. I mean, I know some people don't want to work with a realtor, but if you're going to work with a realtor, get one that has been through the ups and the downs and the all around.
Well, that's a good point.
That can communicate honest opinions. And that's the kind of thing that matters right now. Same with all aspects of it, lenders, whoever it is.
Well, and what a lot of people don't realize real quick is that when you list a home, the seller actually gets to choose what type of lending or financing that they're willing to accept, right? So we, as realtors, it's our job to go through each one of those and help educate them. And if they have questions, they can talk to a lender like Blair and Tom, and you guys can help explain that too. But I don't discourage FHA. I don't discourage any particular financing at all. But I do give them, here are the things to look for in each of those. And then ultimately they get to decide, because if you throw FHA out, you're going to throw out a lot of potential candidates for that house. And during a buyer's market, seller's market, maybe not so much of a big deal, but in a buyer's market, you're definitely going to lose out.
Sure.
So,
well, guys, I think we've gone down this road. David, I appreciate your time coming on and sharing your experiences in the market. Guys, it's been a great time, and our next show is June 23rd. We will be talking over, Tom. I hope you're able to join us. David Sims with 10 Talents will be joining us, and we will be talking about the market as it is and what's going to happen to those appraisal districts. What's going to happen to your cost, your property tax, and can you challenge those increases? Can you not? How is the best way to approach it? Because we're really going to see with this up and down sellers market right now and the increases that we're seeing, our appraisal districts are not going to waste any time, Tom, is that correct, in raising our taxes, raising the value of your home, raising what we're going to have to pay at the end of the year. Would you agree?
I would agree, except I was pleasantly surprised out in Tyler. They lowered my taxes this year. I'm like, what?
Well, let's study that and let's talk about that next week. I appreciate it again, David. Thanks for being here. And I'm Blair Thomas.
And I'm Tom Holm.
I'm Alan Pace.
God bless. Y'all have a great rest of your week. And hang around, Tom. Don't go anywhere.
Yes, sir.